Welcome to Real Life with Bel, and this is a podcast about real life, just as it is. Each episode is an honest conversation about the moments that challenge us and sometimes surprise us. No filters, no pretending. Quick thanks to the show's sponsor, ActiveFlex. If you're looking for pain-relieving gel with long-lasting relief for painful muscles and joints, you can use my discount code, BEL10, for 10% off. Just visit alphasport.com.au. Let's begin today's episode. My guest today emerged as a unique brand of comedian in Australia in 2007, blending sharp wit in his stand-up comedy with relatable tales. He brings humour to the psychologically absurd and his fascinating takes on trauma dumping and the morbid. This mastermind is behind one of Australia's most unexpected and entertaining true crime comedy walking tours across the country. Welcome to the podcast, Shayne Hunter.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. What a nice intro.
You like that?
It's mastermind. Whoa.
He's a mastermind.
Oh, watch out.
But tell me a little bit about yourself. So where did you grow up and a little bit about your life in the early days?
Well, I grew up in Redcliffe and my grandmother was a big part in raising me. My parents were nice people, but emotionally mature. I was dyslexic and probably ADD and, touched what the kids call neurodivergent, which is an interesting term. And and I've actually been accused of being high functioning autistic. So I actually got tested as an adult to see if I have it, but I actually found out that I'm actually low functioning neurotypical. So I'm bad with both people and numbers. That was a joke.
I'm trying to work that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready for them now. It
was a play on, because people say neurodivergent, right?
Yeah.
And no one ever has a personality disorder.
So I'm like neurotypical. Hang on. Low functioning neurotypical.
You got high functioning autism, low functioning neurotypical. So I was dyslexic, right? So I wasn't great at school. And obviously, I also think it's a dumb institution and it sucks, right? You might as well just call them indoctrination centers or whatever. And, maybe that's too cynical or dismissive, but that's what I'm like. I sucked at it. And then all I could do was sort of entertain myself and, joke around with other kids. I was a class clown. And then when I saw Billy Connolly as a kid or Seinfeld as a kid, I was like, what are they doing? What is that? I want that. Because that feels like the funnest, most magical. It feels magical what they were doing. And I wanted to be close to whatever that was. And obviously there was a bit of drama in my childhood, nothing, luckily I wasn't sexually assaulted or any horrible shit like that. But, my mom's temperament was unstable or whatever. And she had, a bit of issues. And so it was a great, also with ADD, I guess it's a cliche of my generation, a trauma dump, right? But, one of the jokes I say about ADHD is, to what degree is that a genetic thing versus just growing up in a crazy environment, right? So one example is my mom, and she disagrees with this, but she thinks I misinterpreted what she said. But she said, I thought she said when I was 9 or something that she was going to kill me. She was going to kill herself and then not leave me and my sister around, right? So thinking she was going to kill us as well. And then no one debriefs me about that. And then you just have to go to school the next day and then pay attention to whoa, what's your times table, And it's no wonder I had a hard time spelling and stuff. It's okay, Shayne, can you stand out the word dissociate? All right. Shayne, maths question. If your mom kills herself, you and your sister, how many people left in the family? Pay attention, right? So I think, so ADHD, you said you had ADHD and, just before we started and there was a bit of whatever life's. So anyway, so that's how I got into comedy.
And that's the end of the podcast because he's just
much.
literally answered most of my questions in his intro.
Great. I'm glad. Good to be efficient.
Okay, I have so much to say there. So I agree with you. School was not for me. My brain was never in the classroom. So it was never on what the teacher was saying. It was, what's that guy doing with his ruler over there? Or what's that kid doing walking past the classroom? I would like the teacher. I have no problem with the teacher, but what they're saying, I can be staring at them and smiling, behaving, but I'm not listening to you, dude. It was just not within me.
Well, boring as shit, right? So I do stand-up comedy, right? So the expectation is that it's up to me to hold the audience's attention.
Yeah.
And if I don't and they go on their phone or they're bored shitless, that's on me.
Yeah.
But why in school why is it on the kid? Like, they're fucking kids.
They're kids.
That should be on the adult to not be boring. Go do some wiggles shit.
So I would say that's the pressure the teachers have within the guidelines of what they've got to teach. And that's half the problem. You know, what's the percentage of what you learn at school in reality you've used in life?
Well, I couldn't quantify it because I didn't pay attention to that class to be able to
So did you learn how to pay bills? Did you learn how to
navigate conflict? Did you learn how to deal with people emotionally manipulating you? Did you ever deal with what feels meaningful and has purpose in life?
Yeah.
Did you ever it's all just like, I remember you'd just be there going literally chanting and 5 times 5 is 25.
Yeah.
You'd want to what is that? That is just anesthetizing shit, right?
Ta ti ti ta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sa.
And you're like, what? I don't even know what that is.
But he knows it, but we don't use it.
Well, I actually do use it on a daily basis.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Can you use it now?
Yeah. Well, whenever I go, I'm 36. I haven't managed my finances well to this point. I'm seemingly will never be able to own a home. And then I stop and I go, remember your training, Shayne. TT ta ta TT ta. And then I'm like, I'm fine. I'm sorted. Thanks for preparing me for the. Yeah, no, it wasn't, it sounds conspiratorial, and, you got to be wary of narratives that, human beings, we have a tendency to take our position and make it righteous or virtuous.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely right about this. That
I agree.
That, the Prussian, it came from Prussia, right? Which was this militaristic state that it's gone now. But they were the ones that came up with schools to create an army or whatever, and factory workers.
Was it not the Catholics?
No. I think Catholics, they developed unis. I think they developed higher education, the kind of uni atmosphere.
Yeah, so it was the Prussians who we're going to lay the blame.
So next, kids, if there's any kids watching, stand up and go, I'm not Prussian. I'm not doing it.
And I will also say the one subject that I did enjoy was law, and that didn't come in till grade 11 and 12. And I can actually, I have retained some pretty good information.
You gave a fuck.
I gave a fuck. That's exactly what it was.
Well, that's the thing. School doesn't teach you to give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
And also, my suggestion would be what they should do, particularly when people are they shouldn't have let my generation go to uni, because now we have these stupid debts.
Yeah. Did you go to university?
For a little bit, but I still got a big debt from it.
Yeah.
And then, but I think what they should do is they should get the kids to go to the workplaces where they would want to go. Stand in there for 2 weeks, just quietly watching.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to kill themselves, then maybe study it.
Did you not do work experience? Or was it just a bludge? For me, it was a bludge. I chose an aged care home.
Okay.
Right? Loved it because I love old people. I love kids and I love old people. And then the second one I did was a kindergarten, and they made me do stuff. I wasn't real happy about that. I actually had to do things.
Right. You got to choose? From what did you get to choose though?
Anything.
Okay.
And they're the two I chose. Love the aged care. I would not make a great teacher. I say to you, I love children, but I could not be an educator.
Well, maybe you could be an educator in this utopian education system we're talking about.
Right. Let's change it.
Yeah.
Let's mix it up. Let's teach people how responsibility sucks as an adult. They don't know. They just want to finish school. They want to get out.
Yeah. Well, does it suck, or is it just we're not giving schools how to cope with it?
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? How do you, anyway?
Flip the coin. Yeah. Glass half full. I love it.
Yeah.
You grew up in Redcliffe, so why the hate on Logan?
Well, to me, I guess it's fun to punch down, and I feel like they're too weak to fight back. No, I think, I don't know, it's probably a lazy comedic trope or whatever. It gets a laugh, No, there's nothing wrong with those places or those people.
No, absolutely not. It's just funny.
Except for all the crime and murder and drugs.
That's true.
Except for those things.
Yeah.
But, it's probably less evil than Canberra or whatever human sacrifice is going on underneath the chambers of Parliament or whatever.
Yeah, or in Vatican City.
Yeah.
Wonder what's going on in there.
Fucking,
I've been behind the scenes in the Vatican City.
What do you mean?
So it was weird. So I would have been like 24, and one of my best friend's mum is severely Catholic. And
I felt like you were going to say severely disabled, but then your answer was probably worse. But yeah.
Or more accurate.
More accurate.
Yeah. So I went to this little religious shop and bought these empty vials, like with Mary praying on the front. And I went into Vatican City. So have you been?
I've been to the Vatican City.
Yeah. So
as far as I'm aware, I might have been drugged and taken there once.
Love Rome. Anyway, so I went in there and my husband wasn't allowed in because his arms or legs weren't covered or something like that, but mine were. And so I was able to enter.
Wow.
And in I go. And then the font for the holy water was empty, like this massive font, empty. And I was like, this is bullshit. I've come from Brisbane to Rome. I've got these vials that I've paid €2 for each.
Wow.
I want some holy water. So I went up to one of the priests that was just there. And I was like, excuse me, have you got any holy water? Because I'm thinking, you could bless it, dude. You could stand there and bless it, surely. Anyway, he's like, oh, is it empty? Come with me. And then he takes me, and I felt like I was in like, it was not Angels and Demons. What's the other Dan Brown book?
I don't know.
Whatever that other one was.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. And I felt like I was in something like that because we went through all these dark alleyways out the back. And it was actually really surreal. And then he just got these bottles that he had lined up and then filled my little vials. And then off I went. I didn't even look around the chapel.
Wow.
I was just there for the holy water. But my beef with the church is the money they've got. That's my beef.
Well, what do they say? The first and last Christian died on the cross, right?
If that's a joke, can you just explain to me?
Oh, it's not a joke. It's just like they just are saying that not whether you believe Jesus existed or not. The idea of Jesus is that he was the only one living up to the standard that represents the good side of Christianity. So the first and last Christian,
there you go,
died on the cross.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Look, I do love religion. I miss going to church and I miss singing the songs. I love to sing those songs. Like they get me right in the guts.
Yeah.
But it's just the content.
Classic
I can't do it. It is classic
religious karaoke. Yeah, no, I think it would be good if we had some sort of religion, but yeah.
But it doesn't need to be about God. Can't it just be about, and like, I don't want to get all flowery and airy-fairy and like free peace, love. At the end of the day.
I think that God or all religions or wisdom traditions or philosophies or whatever, they attempt to create a set of hierarchies that like some values are higher than another hierarchy, right? And so, that's what, a pyramid like that just by maths just creates a pyramid structure, right?
Pyramid scheme. For sure.
Well, the idea that at the very top, so, there's, let's say like love would be like truth is better than lies, right?
In most cases.
Well, they're debatable. So if it's like someone's wedding day and they're like, do I look beautiful? And they just happen to be, you don't go, no matter what you do, you'll never be beautiful. You're fucking ugly. You're a pig, right?
But you would say you've got like spinach in your teeth.
Yes, right. So it's true. There's a form of truth that is higher than the literal truth that I understand the context of my friend getting married that I'll go, you look wonderful,
Yeah.
And that is true. So there's like different hierarchies of truth as well, right? And so the idea of like religion, well, like, while they say Jesus is the King of Kings, it's like it's the top of the hierarchy of all possible hierarchies. So that story, the myth of it depicts someone who's meant to be like the top of every hierarchy possible. You know what I mean? And so,
but it also religion, like as a man, this is a question I'd love to ask you. It's a very sexist. The Bible's very sexist. It really, from such a long time ago, we'll say 2024 years ago, men became the be all and end all and women were the submissives. And imagine if it was the other way around. I wonder what the world would be like today if in that book was written that Gabby died on the cross.
Gabby.
And Bruce was praying at the base of it. And then all of Gabby's besties, wrote this Bible. As a female, I wonder if the world would look very different today if it was females in charge.
It's a very big question. I can only just give like a whim. Like, obviously I have no certainty, but yeah, I think that it's very interesting. You know, I feel like in some of the myths, like say there's a myth about Odin in the Norse mythology where, you know, there's three women who control his fate. And so the idea of what that myth might represent is that in society, you know, women tend to, you know, like guys aren't having brunch with each other just to catch up and talk, right? So
they should.
perhaps, but guys tend to organize and hang out around projects. Well, women tend to organize around people, right? And so their brains tend to be wired to be more communal. And so in that myth, it's meant to represent the idea that, you know, these women, a male's reputation is, and their fate is depicted how women perceive that man. Like if all the women in the village think you're a fuckhead, you know, that could completely destroy a guy. Well, if all the guys hate you, they would like smash your head with a rock, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a different kind of social power women tend to wield or to naturally be better at. And I think that in modernity, there's been, you know, like more women graduate university in my generation and the lower generations under me. And that's right. So there's huge shifts that have taken place and taking place, which means there'll be, you know, more women in positions of power and all that kind of stuff. But in our culture, what we seem to have done is things that are more traditionally associated with a more masculine virtue. And I don't necessarily believe that women don't have what we would call masculine or whatever within them. But like, you know, you look at the new Star Wars movies, you know, well, first of all, that's such a, I mean, the story plot of it was like something that was designed by commission. It's soulless, but Rey just seems to be like, oh, women can be men. And that's the best thing about women.
Did you like that movie? That was Rogue One, wasn't it?
I don't watch movies, but what I understand the plot to be is that she's just like really powerful and as good as men. But what my point is that it's like the thing that I think is a mistake with those movies about women empowerment is it's kind of sending the message that the best a woman can aspire to be is as competent in the domains males naturally wired to, like physical combat.
Yeah.
Or like, you know.
Which we're not. Well, look at the transgenders. They're trying to put them in a swimming pool against.
Let's say like my partner, like I know she is more emotionally in tune and sensitive to me. I know that she can help other people feel better, right? I know that she would be better with children than I would be in terms of being sensitive to their needs. I know that she's more forgiving and understanding and empathetic than me. And so like why, so our society, instead of saying, what my point is, they're saying that the message is the best a woman can be is like men.
Wow.
That's the highest that they can achieve. And that's our idiot culture. So it's still devaluing what women are naturally good at to the point that we think that women empowerment is to be like a man. And we're holding that up as like, and also in terms of like the patriarchy and all this shit, right? Now, obviously, you know, there's talk about like they talk about like the pay gap, which isn't a thing now. But what is a thing is if we aggregate all males against a set of all females, the men dominate the women. But what they don't look at is the fact that like 1% of guys will dominate all the men and the women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is that even in that paradigm, it's like our value structure is that, okay, maybe there should be economic equality and there's staying, you know, economic coercion, all that. But what I'm saying is, it's like, is that the way we're going to progress society forward, is just aspire to get as much wealth as possible? Well, you don't think that would actually potentially undermine a society by valuing shit that is the neoliberal kind of shit from Reagan and Thatcher, where, you know, that we're all, instead of being like a working class, we're now consumers, you know.
Haves and then the have-nots.
Yeah.
And then you've got that great divide.
Like, it's telling, it ignores any domains women are naturally better at on aggregate, and then also saying that the best they can do is be like men. And then also you have this postmodernist thing where people go, gender is just a social construct anyway. And so like, it's fucking madness.
It is. And I don't even know when that happened. I can't even pinpoint the moment that wokeness became so intrinsic in our society. I don't know. It just happened, and it was just slow and steady. And now the world Australia feels like it's run that way.
Yeah, well, I think it's partly a reaction to the neoliberal ideology, because when you just make everyone individuals, our subconscious or whatever is craving that collective identity. And because we can't seemingly return to religion, because we can't take the Bible story literally anymore, even if we could take it metaphysically true, then what do people grab to? They grab to this shit, And then there's also like with a lot of woke stuff or a lot of, the dangers of left-wing stuff, that there is a risk where there's a lot of envy masked as virtue, right? That, they're so interested in the people who are higher up, but they don't really give a fuck about the people below. But it's convenient for them to think that they do to themselves, so that they can pull down the people and that they can be the special.
You've raised a couple of good points there. So perhaps the Gabby and Bruce story wouldn't have worked based upon what you're saying female tendencies naturally are versus male tendencies. Whether that's an evolutionary thing, I'm not sure.
Well, I would say that the evidence would suggest there is a role. Like you think about like the difference between genders go back to like fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like nature's like, okay, for it to survive and the genes to propagate, this is what you're good at. This is what otherwise it'd be the same thing. It would just be these asexual things,
like frogs, aren't they?
Well, I think they can swap genders. Some of them can.
Or something.
But speaking on this point, this is the true crime story I have actually speaks to an interesting story about a woman who was in a lot of economic hardship in our Australian history. And I would love to share it with you and your audience.
Bring the action.
Bring the action. Well, one of the stories I've been working on is about a woman called Dulcie Markham. And she was a very interesting woman. She was involved in organized crime in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And she was a sex worker and then a brothel madam. And she also was sort of vilified in the media because she had 7 different male partners who died while she was dating them, right? And so the media like portrayed her, gave her names like the Angel of Death and
something about a spider.
Black Widow, Spider,
Black Widow, yeah.
And and she was very attractive, so she had hot girl problems, as the kids say. And
she was a brunette too, wasn't she?
No, she was blonde.
Was she a blonde? In my head, I've heard a podcast with that, and in my head, she was a brunette.
We create little images,
with red lipstick and black eyeliner. But no, she's a blondie.
Yeah, she was a blondie. And so she was interesting. She was born on the eve of World War I, which is, a good omen. But she was born in a place called Surrey Hills in Sydney, which is now a very affluent area. It's like, there's like cafes with, gyms inside them and yoga mats that are about gay rights or whatever, and all the, middle class shit. But back then, it was like people were so poor that there would be like bed bugs up into the walls. People would live without windows, they'll just have holes. And
is this Australia in the 1930s?
No, 1910s and 20s. And people would describe, and the 30s as well.
Yeah.
But people would describe, like the aristocrats would sort of describe it with contempt, like they were poetic terms. Like they'll say stuff like it was where the spawn of the gutter, grow to fat and multiply and like not just like contempt, but they would almost be poetic with their contempt.
Yeah.
They're kind of like whimsical, and when I read that, I kind of wondered like, do the 1% now have like poetry readings, where they kind of have this contempt? Like, I wonder if there's like an Epstein Island somewhere where, they have a poetry reading and, someone comes out and they're like, where the fatherless larvae of Housing Commission grew up to scream into payphones, and then all the rich people are there like clicking, going, brilliant, Rupert, brilliant, wonderful. And now bring out the orphans or whatever, And but then again, like, at no point did it seem that the poverty she grew up into, or the society that, you know, had blame for her for being a sex worker, at no point did the aristocrats feel like they had any responsibility or duty to fix that area. They just condemned it as being immoral. Like it was a moral failing that they were poor.
Yeah.
Rather than maybe their policies or is their duty to make it wealthier.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah. And so how did it end up poor, you know? And, but I think it's easy that we lose that connection and we just see the results of our actions, but we don't actually think about bin chickens, right? You know, bin chickens, ibises, they're called bin chickens now. I was walking by like a sort of green area near where I live and I saw like a family of ibises in the stream having like a bath, right? And it kind of struck me because you never see ibises kind of being majestic or beautiful.
Yeah.
You only see them like covered in trash and eating chips out of a bin or whatever. And you just, you know, bin chicken, you got contempt for them. You're like, bin chickens, right? And but
feeding their family.
Yeah,
but disgusting.
I know, but then I thought about how unfair it is that we call them bin chickens because they're only eating out of bins because we destroyed their habitat. They don't want to be bin chickens, right? And that's so unfair. It would be like if I demolished your home and then you find the rubble and you're like, oh my God. And then you go through the rubble to like grab the family albums. And I'm there yelling at you going, you're rubble chicken. You're a filthy rubble and I'm just trying to see a photo of my grandma. Rubble chicken, right? It's so unfair. And so
I'm never going to call an ibis a bin chicken again.
Whoa. Yeah.
Let's start the movement. Say no to bin chicken.
I'm going to acknowledge that at every show. But, you know, it's crazy, right? We call them bin chickens. Like how we fuck their environment. Like, why do you... Anyway, and so...
Also, bin chicken, the name, slid out of nowhere as well. That was not a thing.
Yeah, well, maybe it just makes us feel better about ourselves, right? And so, again, like these people shitting on Surrey Hills, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, so Dulcie, she was like, grew up in the bin chicken suburb, right? And her dad her mum was a domestic servant who she got like, went to court because she stole some like clothes that were worth like a month's wages. You know, very inappropriate for when the, you know, domestic servants like steal
from the
rich
boss,
people, you know, a massive bin chicken sort of behavior.
That's the vibe.
And then her father is reported to being a theatrical performer, but as far as I can tell, there's no historical record of any plays or anything he was in.
It's maybe street performer.
So we don't know, but you know, I do know that it's not the easiest thing to make a living through a performer even now. I don't know what it's like back then living in bin chicken suburbs. So it must have been hard for him.
Definitely.
And, you know, it's only in the last few years I've been able to make like a full-time living just through performing. For years, I was on Centrelink. And then I would also have an ABN, which I would maybe make a couple $100s a year through performing. And so I would have to tell Centrelink that I was self-employed, right? Even though I wasn't really making that much money. So people would ask me what I would do because I wasn't technically unemployed or whatever, but I would and I wasn't technically self-employed. So I would tell them I'm self-unemployed, right? And so I choose to be unemployed, right? And so I think Dulcie's father was probably self-unemployed. And so when she turned 15, she moved out of home. And on the eve of the Great Depression, the year the Great Depression struck, right? So World War I, Great Depression, right?
She is a Debbie Downer.
She's a Debbie Downer. Well, I think the world was a Debbie Downer on her. I don't think she's a real bummer. And then she ended up going to King's Cross near Surrey Hills, and then she got involved in sex work at a very young age, which is quite sad. And then there was a detective at the time called Lillian Armstrong, who was like the first kind of female detective that in Australia. And her role was to try to rescue these women from these
sex work
things, you know, because there were so many moral prohibitions on them. And then she told Lillian Armstrong, should be offered domestic work. And she go, thank you, miss, but I make more in one day what I'd make in a month, right? So the economic logic is clear for Dulcie, particularly, you know, she's come from fucking bin world, bin chicken world. She's not coming back to that. And, you know, she doesn't want to work in a factory and get a finger ripped off or, you know, any of that. And so, but, you know, and so this has more modern parables of today to some extent. Like, you know, a lot more women than ever, my age and down, are doing like OnlyFans to try to make money. And like a lot of guys are interested in like trading cryptocurrency, this, you know, get rich crypto.
Do you follow any OnlyFans accounts?
I've dabbled, but not really.
Do you reckon my husband does? Is that a normal thing for guys, is it?
I think what happens is...
I'm going to ask him. I've never asked him.
I think what happens is like people kind of like will have a moment of weakness.
Yeah.
And then, at least this is me.
Yeah.
Is that you'll do it and you go, why am I doing this? And then you'll delete the account and be like, so I maybe started an account maybe like 3 times over the years.
So it's an app. Is it an app? You've got to download.
It's a website. Yeah. And I think the appeal is that it gives you a more personal thing.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just, but anyway, it's a weird phenomenon, right?
It's charity.
Kind of. Sponsored. Sponsor us, slut. I don't mean that in a pejorative. But, and so, you know, and then the guys, they'll get into cryptocurrency and, well, you know, this which, you know, it's cryptocurrency, you know, and like, I think a lot of younger people, they don't realize not only fans of cryptocurrency that there's a record of them doing that online forever. And just because the older generations fucked up the housing market for us means that they're, you know, and I know if I was a father, I would be so sad. I would tell my kid, like, don't you realize this is online forever? You know, like this is really shameful stuff. You shouldn't be doing this. And I mean cryptocurrency, right? I don't mean OnlyFans. Yeah. But if my kid got into Bitcoin, I would be not under my roof. Get out, right? At least with OnlyFans, I kind of mean that because OnlyFans, like at least there's some pretext to work. Bitcoin, what are you doing? You're just like buying something and hoping? Like, what the fuck is that for a life strategy?
It's a wish.
Yeah, it's
genie in a bottle.
It's a fantasy, right? Yeah. It's like that's your strategy in life. And so, yeah, really building skills. And so, so she's doing, she's working in the sex industry. And then she gets into the media for the first time at age 17. Well, just quickly, just before we continue the Dulcie story, I wonder if my husband's on OnlyFans or whatever.
Yeah, is all guys on there?
What's his first?
Brent.
Yeah. Right. I don't know your last name. Yeah. From memory, I'm pretty sure because I did OnlyFans for a while. I think Brent subscribed to my OnlyFans account for a while. I think you should talk to him about that because the messages he was sending me were very, very intense.
Can I just say, when I mentioned you were coming,
he was so excited.
He dropped the coffee mug.
Well, I imagine he's going to be watching this podcast. Why is there a camera in the bathroom?
This podcast is supported by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian pain-relieving gel designed for long-lasting relief for painful muscles and joints. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. If your symptoms persist, please seek advice from a healthcare professional. You can shop online at alphasport.com.au and use my special code, BEL10, BEL10. And that's just a little special code for you as a listener of the podcast, using the discount code at alphasport.com.au.
So she was 17, right? So Dulcie was 17. So this is the first time she gets in her long run with the media, right? And it was because her first fiance, so she's 17, very, very young, child.
Yeah, she's a kid.
And 17, her fiance was stabbed, a guy called Cecil McCormack. He was stabbed with a stiletto. And it took me like a month into researching the story to realize that wasn't a shoe. It was actually a type of knife that is like a thin knife. That's where the shoe comes from. Right? Which we didn't, so that's why they
she got a shoe in with.
That's why they're called, but she didn't do it. A guy who did it. So her mentor was a woman called Tilly Devine, who was like a brothel
madam,
a very famous one, involved in Sydney at that time in the era which was called the Razor Gang Wars, right? So back then the cops didn't want people shooting each other, so they would take guns away from people, right? And so, but people could have a excuse for carrying a razor blade. Oh, it's my razor, I got to shave, right? And so people would like hack each other up with these razors, like slash your throat, you're gone, right?
Yeah.
And so people got good at this, and then people got good at like dodging the razor. So people would sort of slash with that, and they would sort of cut the side of their hair, and then they'll go on the other side and cut the other side of the hair. And that's where the mullet originates from. A lot of people don't actually know it's where the mullet comes from. So stiletto mullets we're learning. And so Tilly Devine's son actually had a crush on Dulcie, and they may or may not have had a fling at one point, right? So Dulcie, you know, apparently the media reported she had like movie star good looks, right? So they used the term a ravishing figure, which is interesting. Anyway, and so I think that's what your husband called me on OnlyFans. He said I had a ravishing figure. He used the same language. And so, and so he was stabbed by Dulcie's son. Cecil was stabbed and killed. He died. And then...
Hang on, stop.
No, the madam's son stabbed Cecil.
Oh,
a jealous thing for Dulcie, right?
Yes.
He ended up doing manslaughter. But then Dulcie, she's 17, so she has to go and like look at the body and identify that for the cops, right? So imagine you're 17, your fiance's been stabbed to death, and you have to identify. That's how, like, it wasn't until I was 18 that I even kissed a girl, right? You know, they were living like they've gone through all those steps now, you know.
Yeah.
And she's identifying, like, how intense for a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, even at like 22, if the cops grabbed me and they brought me into a room and they said, Shayne, can you identify the clitoris? I probably couldn't, right? I would probably struggle. And so a different time, right? A faster paced life. And so, and then not only on top of all that grieving and how traumatic that would be, and, you know, you've grown up in Chicken Binville. On top of that, the media, this is the first time the media starts to report about her. And they use the term, which is one of the terms they keep referring to as a pretty Dulcie, right? And then they talked about what happened where they also kept commenting on her looks, right? Which is a bit kind of inappropriate. Like, this is a child who's grieving, who's been involved in murder.
Yeah.
And you're just there going, she's hot.
Yeah.
You know, like, how inappropriate. Like, imagine going to a funeral and you're like, oh, I'm sorry about your loss, but nice tits, by the way, you know, like yum, 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 but sorry about the loss, you know, like bit inappropriate, right? And so this starts the pattern of how the media sort of, now you feel like the public's involved in your, like, it's to fuck your head up, right? Your head's already been messed about so much, right? And so Dulcie, you know, she goes through a pattern of like having quite a few partners who are involved in this criminal world who end up dying soon after they're dating her. You know, they sort of on average, about every 2.5 years, a guy would end up getting killed. So she had a few of this happen, and then the media catches on.
Yeah.
And so she's not actually responsible for any of these murders. None.
For real.
None of them. But the media keeps focusing on her being like, they give her names like the Angel of Death and the Black Widow Spider. And she was very hurt by this. And, you know, it was like they even like, they referred to her. So one of her partners, an Italian guy who was like well known in this sort of Sydney crime scene, he was killed. And Dulcie was having an affair with him. And she was like very distraught at the funeral. And then the media's like, again, talking about her. And she was only like, you know, early 20s at this point. And then they call her a gangster's mole, right? Have you ever heard that phrase, a gangster's mole?
Yep.
I hadn't until researching the story. And apparently that's where the origin, because I've always, you know, grown up, you hear people go, oh, yeah, mole. Right. I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
Like I thought like, and so a gangster's mole, I thought it meant like a mole or something. And then, but a gangster's mole, and apparently mole has its origins from like a Mary, and a Mary was like back from the 1600s, potentially all the way back then. It was like kind of a term for like a prostitute. And sort of interesting how we don't know the origins of those terms. And like another one is like, I just found out recently the term guy. Do you know where that comes from?
No.
It actually comes like, hey guys, what up guys? Hey guy. Oh, that guy. That actually comes from Guy Fawkes. It actually does. Right? I was joking with the mullet thing, but it actually comes from the Guy Fawkes guy that tried to blow up British Parliament and like the...
For sure.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. So we're going like, hey guys, like calling each other terrorists, right? He was a religious extremist that tried to blow up Parliament. Hey guys, which is crazy.
For the listener, I can't tell if he's joking.
No, I'm not joking. That's the true one. And what's even makes you wonder, like, what in the future, other terms will there be? Like, instead of hide and go seek in the future, they'll be like, oh, all right, kids, go hide in Bin Laden, you know? Go Bin Laden for daddy. Daddy will come he'll come SEAL Team 6 you. So, so that's, fascinating and crazy to me, right? And so she goes through this, and quite a few partners die, and they're all sort of loosely involved in crime, and they get killed by the gangsters. And so next sort of big arc of her life is World War II happens. What a time to be born! Like World War One, the fucking depression, and then World War II. What? Like,
don't forget Surrey,
and don't forget the bin chickens, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then just
and the death.
All the deaths, all the fucking deaths, right? And the media vilifying you.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so World War II happens. And so at the time, all these American soldiers come to Brisbane.
All the sailors.
Sailors.
Yeah.
So at the
what a time to be alive.
I know, particularly as a sex worker, right? So she sees where the money is. So she comes up here to capitalize on that. And then she's
Brisbane?
Yeah. Well, the Gold Coast, right? Because Gold Coast would be, she went all over Australia. Got arrested 100. She had 100 different charges over the years, all the way from like vagrancy to selling slay grog to assault and all these charges, and small time in jail. And then she ended up the Gold Coast during World War II and she was smart because she targeted, she knew that she was good looking, but she would target the officers, not the troops, because they'll pay more. So like sex workers might get £2, but she was getting like, 10 pounds, right? And she changed her name many times, like different sex worker names. I think it was like Dulcie Markham or something that sounded French and sophisticated. I'm not good at, dyslexic or whatever, but something like that. And, in showbiz or sex work, you need a good, fun name, they always like names like Stormy Summers or something like that. And like,
I wasn't allowed to call any of my kids Crystal.
Right. Yeah. You need a fun name, right? Because it's part of the reason it helps them be successful. Like, we're not talking about a story about, there's a lesser known sex worker in the same era who wasn't as good as marketing at Dulcie, and her sex worker name was Drizzly Autumns. And we don't know about Drizzly because the name's not as fun.
Nobody wants to hear about Drizzly.
No one wants to hear about this. No one could Drizzly. But I'm joking. That's a joke.
Okay, good. Because I was like,
but the Guy Fawkes one is real.
The worst name ever.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to be funny, right? And to highlight, you need a good name. And so she would get the officers, right? And so at the time, huge demand for sex, right? So like, you're going overseas, you could die.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what am I going to do before I die if I had to pick one thing, right? And so it's weird that just as I said that, I looked at a photo of the wall of a soldier. Perhaps he was one of Dulcie's clients. I don't know if that's a family member of yours.
So that is my husband's grandmother's uncle, and H.V. Lewis, and he was missing in action in the Air Force. So his plane went down.
Well, I really hope you had a good time with Dulcie before he went down.
Not Drizzly.
Not Drizzly. No. Yeah, Jesus. And so, so 800,000. So the population in Brisbane at the time was 300,000.
Yeah.
Extra 800,000 American personnel, mainly men.
Wow.
So there's massive competition for women. So people would a lot of Aussies would miss out.
This is why my grandfather never liked Americans.
Yes.
We were never allowed to eat McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah, he hated the Yanks.
Yeah, well, they were arrogant, right?
Yeah.
And so people would be the Australians would be out-competed, and people would lose their girlfriends and sometimes even their wives to the Americans. And that's because the Americans, their uniforms were nicer, and they were paid twice as much as the Australians.
And they had a massive fight.
Yeah, the Battle of Brisbane.
Yeah.
And because I remember telling my ex-girlfriend, I'd be like, why would we be with one guy? We can be with another guy who's paid twice as much, who dresses better.
Exactly.
And I really regret telling her that. I think that was a big mistake. That kind of fucked up there. But what were you saying?
And they brought Coca-Cola.
And they brought jazz and cool dance. And a lot, Australians were very, backwards. And so they were more gregarious and worldly and liked the movies, right? So like it was a no-brainer for the chicks, right?
Yeah.
But people even lose their wives, right? So, and then not only that, the Australians, they'll go overseas. Whenever there was whenever there was an American victory, it would be an American victory, and whenever there was like an Australian victory, it was an Allied victory.
Yeah.
Right. So the Australians never got credit. So they won a few battles defending Australia and Papua New Guinea from the Japanese or whatever. It was just Allied victory. And they're like, oh, where's our credit, you know? So imagine that, like you've got your arm blown off, your dominant hand's gone, you come home and you find that you don't get any credit and now your wife's left you. And then you'll be like, well, at least I can always masturbate. Oh, hang on. No, I can't. I've lost my fucking arm, right? So no wonder they ended up rioting. And so Dulcie,
So was the riots after? I thought it was before.
Well,
during. It was during
the
yeah.
occupation,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I talk about that one on the Brisbane tour, but that's not where we're going. But yeah, so she's, you know, making coin, right? And she makes so much money that she ends up moving to Melbourne after the war, 1946, to now she's got enough money to start her own operation. So she goes to St Kilda, where St Kilda's like a suburb that had like a lot of nice mansions and hotels and stuff, but it becomes a crime hub. Like a lot of like criminal stuff starts happening in St Kilda, sort of like gentrification in reverse.
Yeah.
Right? Like all this, like it becomes a hub. And then, yeah, she ends up getting like a hostel, and she's now a brothel. She's now got women working for her, right? And at this point, now she's got another guy. I think she's up to the 6th dude, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, she's dating a guy, Gavin Walsh, who is a 23-year-old. She's 38 at this point.
Yep.
Right? So, you know, cougar.
It's a little bit better than old mate in France.
She's old mate in France.
President of France.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
He was 14, she was 39.
Yeah, that's like, wasn't there a conspiracy theory that that guy was his wife was a man, and it's like some weird craziness going on?
Uh-huh. You need to do that deep dive. It's full on.
Yeah.
Full on.
It's
14, 39, she was his teacher. You can tell we've both got ADHD, right? Look at us,
probably.
from one thing to the next. So if you have a look at it, 14, 39, she was his drama teacher.
Yeah.
And then obviously she was a molester, obviously, because he's a child. Then eventually they got married and he became the president of France. And then his people somehow persuaded the country that it was a love affair of all time, like the love of all love affairs, and that how could he possibly not have been attracted to her because she was so damn beautiful. You look at photos of her at 39. She was nothing to the eye.
Yeah, it's I don't know how these people are our rulers.
Yeah. If you want to have a bit of a deep dive, put into Google.
She doesn't look like, everyone, there's so many different body types out there, but she does not look feminine in her body. Do you know what I mean? Like she looks like a little man.
I don't care if she's a man or a woman. I don't care. What I care
it's
about,
the pedophilia of it,
right? That's what it is for me.
What I mean is, there's just layers of deception, is what it points to,
right? But if you Google her name, and then say the word man doesn't even come up, so it's been scrubbed. It's scrubbed from the internet.
Well, our podcast has taken off because of this, But it's weird. It's weird.
We're going to be
creepy.
Scrubbed.
We're going to be scrubbed.
Now back to as you were. Where were we? So Dulcie's now a brothel owner. She's putting her web out there. She's got her own girls.
Yes. And she's also selling sly grog.
Yeah, okay.
Because you couldn't sell alcohol past 6 p.m. at the time. You had the temperance movement in Australia, right?
Yeah.
And cocaine as well was popular. And so, yeah, she's running this for 5 years, and then she's got a new guy, 23. And I think maybe because he was like a kind of amateur boxing champion dude, this Gavin guy. And
Gav.
Big Gav. And that age gap. But what it is I think that maybe so many of her partners have been killed that I think she's like, can I find someone who's got like a strong immune system? Like, I think that's part of the 23-year-old thing. And so all that's going on. And then there's a shooting, right? So that apparently there's like a wild drug-fueled party happening where she was at, which the newspapers described as a shindig. And I kind of find it funny that they would describe like a drug-fueled orgy as a shindig. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite a...
That sounds like a positive party.
Yeah, it's like 1950s lingo. Like I've dabbled online on porn sites. I've never seen the category shindig. Do you know what I mean? I'd actually like to see that more. I think that might help attitudes to, like if you know,
Sounds wholesome.
yeah, just like, ravishing dames enjoy shindig, right? And so, and so there was a shindig, and this is my favorite part of the scene where they have an impromptu hootenanny, right? And so that's all going on, and a guy rocks up and he shoots, and people scatter, right? Dulcie is shot 3 times, twice in the leg, once in the hip. Gavin's shot dead.
Oh, Gav.
Or Gav. And then 23, and then his older brother is also shot, but he survives, right? And this is pretty full on, right? So I guess what was happening at the time is turf war. Although some people think it might have been an ex-lover of Dulcie and the jealousy thing happening again. We're not sure, but quite possibly turf war, So if you take out your enemies, you're the one who'll make more money selling grog. And that's actually still happening today, although it's over the vape shops and the selling of tobacco. Do you know about that? There's fire bombings and stuff. And I think it's just coming to Queensland now, but it's wild. It's like full-on gang warfare happening. I also think it's kind of interesting because you can see the way crime has become more gentrified. So it used to be over sly grog, sounds ominous, sly grog, right? Well, now it's over like who can sell, watermelon flavored lung damage.
Vapes.
People, going, this is mango berry pop territory, all right? And so strange, like that's what, anyway, the fruit flavored nicotine. And so vapes is like now the violence or whatever. It's wild. And so anyway, so that's all going on, and she's shot. She survives amazingly, and she ends up going to court a couple of weeks later, and she has to have like I think maybe up to 3 surgeries on her hip. And in court, she's brought in a stretcher.
You tell me that's where the name hipster came from. I will not.
Yeah, that's where hipsters come from. No. Although I wish maybe it should. And so she's in court, and then they bring out, so the brother of Gavin is like the accused, that's definitely who did it. And then Dulcie's brought out as the next key witness, and she's like, no, it's not them, definitely not them. And the judge is like, are you sure? Because what you said at the time to the cops when they found you said, don't worry about them, leave it to me, right? So she's part of the criminal code where you don't snitch, which is kind of a weird paradox that criminals would be like so ethical about their law, like they're like, why can't you just follow society's laws, right? And so the guy gets off, right? And now Dulcie's got this hectic hip injury, and it affects her the rest of her life. Every step she takes, not only like has she lost yet another partner, now she's got like a permanent injury to remind her of that loss. And she's still a sex worker, right? So I'm not an expert, I didn't write the Kama Sutra, but I'm pretty sure hips are involved in sex work. Like there would probably be a bit of sensation around that. And so how full on to have that as an emotional trauma. Have you ever heard of a book called The Body Keeps the Score? It's about how emotional trauma like kind of coalesced in the body or whatever.
Yeah.
And certainly true in that case, So yeah, she's got this permanent hip injury. And then 3 months after this murder, she ends up getting married again. And she gets married in the same room that he was shot in, right? Where like there was like,
you couldn't write about this.
That's crazy. Isn't that crazy? Like every girl's
so she got married in a brothel.
Every girl's dream to get married in a brothel.
Wow. The
last person got shot in, right? Yeah. And so the cops end up closing off the streets for this wedding because it was the hub for crime and all this kind of stuff. And then the newspapers, again, they've like reported the angel of death, and they're like, giving her a hard time. I can't believe that, the grass is barely growing. What are you're a maniac. But I think it actually makes a lot of sense that she would get married again so quickly. And I don't think the papers at the time understood this, which is that, in that sex world culture, particularly back then, well, you need a pimp. You need a guy who will protect you. So
that's what this was.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that's how
protection.
That's how I recognize it.
That's exactly what that would be. Yeah.
It's like, I'm loyal to you, loyal to me. That means I'm safe. Whether this is a conscious, probably conscious on her part.
It's probably an agreement.
Yeah,
all of the times.
Well, it's also part of the culture of the time, right? And then, she's going to be attracted. She's going to want to find the most biggest, baddest, toughest guys, right? But I think this is the tragedy of Dulcie is that she's wanting that security, wanting that protection, never having it, that she's going to the toughest guys, but then
they don't treat her right.
Well, maybe they don't treat her right. Maybe some did better than others. Maybe some were horrible. But the problem is that these really tough guys, we only know they're tough because they operate in an ecosystem in which they have to be tough, right? Yeah. But then it's like they're attracting that hostility, right? So there's a phenomenon that occurs in psychology where we end up creating the conditions we're trying to prevent. Right? So there's a what's called a maladaptive schema or an unconscious belief system. And we all have them. There's like 18 main ones, but one of them is called mistrust, right? And so a lot of tough guys have this mistrust schema, but then the tragedy is it often increases the likelihood of danger, and people with mistrust schemas actually end up getting into fights. So colloquially, we know this is, what are you looking at, guys, right? So, you know, if you're on public transport, like, you know, particularly when I was younger, you know, you'd sort of look at someone like, what are you looking at? What are you fucking looking at? Right? Because they're projecting onto you, like, you want to fucking fight. You try to fight, like, because their paranoia is being projected onto you, right? And so, you know, you just fucking cower away into the shadows because you know, you're not going to like, you fight someone on a train, right?
For making eye contact.
Yeah, fucking, what do you mean, cunt, right? But what we don't appreciate, and we're alluding to it, because we're not in the situation, right, is what happens when two what are you looking at guys look at each other, right? They have a what are you looking off, and then it escalates into a fight, right? Because we're not in the room, right? So what are you fucking looking at? I don't know. What are you fucking looking at? And so she's dating all the what are you looking at guys who live in an ecosystem where there's only what are you looking at guys. So everyone doesn't know what they're looking at, right? No one knows what they're looking at, right? And Dulcie's like, I've got to climb to the top of but she's mistaken the causality here. She's like, I need to find a guy who knows what they're looking at, right? So she keeps trying to get the toughest guy, but then the toughest guy invariably is going to bring challenges because he's like, what are they looking at, right? And so, that's and I think that's actually a lot of young women make this mistake where they confuse, because, you know, I think it's, you kind of, you know, you don't want to be with a loser, a guy with no confidence or a guy with no physicality or any, but you also don't want to confuse like lack of empathy or a lack of a sense of danger or self-preservation for confidence. Yeah. Because it looks like confidence, but it's not, right? So I think a lot of young women, they sort of like, oh, I'm going to go with stab nugget. What are you looking at, guy? Because he'll protect me. But it's like, no, he's going to bring you more drama and danger because he attracts it. He lives in that world, and now you've got a tattoo for some reason. And you know what I mean? Like, because I've met a few women who, you know, they're kind of in that world and then they come out of it in their 30s.
I used to date a guy when I was 15 who had a knife strapped to his back.
What, like in the middle?
Yeah.
Like in the middle of his back?
I don't know. Somewhere there.
Somewhere there. Like, because he didn't know he didn't know what people were looking at.
Yeah, exactly. He did not know what people were looking at.
Right. So he had a bit of paranoia, obviously.
I didn't marry one of those, though.
You didn't? Thank God. All right. Thank God. Well, I would say that if you did, they would definitely have a few OnlyFans accounts, you know, and they'd be spending your money on it probably. But, and so, yeah. And so I think that's one of the things she was locked in, right? And so, and, you know, we don't see those patterns when we're enmeshed in those cultures. And so eventually this guy, she marries this guy whose nickname's Redder. I don't know why. He gets shot, but first one survives. He actually survives, right? But then they break up and they realize they're better as just friends. And so very progressive and modern. Yeah. But at that point, you know, she would never really talk to the media much, right? But at that point, she said that I've had enough. She felt very hurt by the way the media would portray her, you know, because they'll put like cartoons of her with like guns for smoking barrels. And she's like, I'm not a fucking gun person. Like, and then
I'm all about the switchblades.
She's all about the razors. She's all about the stilettos. Yeah, and so that's the first time she says that, you know, I'm done with this world, right? And we think she may have had a daughter that she may have had since the Gold Coast saga. It's hard to know lots of information about her because sex workers would often get their kids taken away from them.
Yeah.
And then she's also trying to probably protect her daughter's identity. And so she's probably got like a 90-year-old daughter out there now, or grandkid, who knows, right? And so, and so she's trying to she tries to get out of this world. And then I think she gets the only time she has sort of 2-year break from that period. We don't heaps know what's going on with her, but I think she gets arrested one more time for vagrancy, which is what the cops would charge people when they were like, oh, we think you're soliciting sex work, but we can't prove it. And then she gets ends up in hospital, thrown off a balcony. A witness says they saw she was thrown off a balcony. So this might be her old criminal enemy friends, right? Which, easily could have been fatal. And she ends up like in an oxygen thing, like in hospital. And the cops go, oh, what happened? And she goes, oh, I fell down the stairs, which is like I'm not going to tell you, right? So she's still got that I'm not going to snitch culture.
Yeah.
And the cops are like, oh, okay, that like the cops obviously knew she was lying. Yeah. Although it was the 1950s, so maybe it wasn't apparent that I fell down the stairs was, because now we're aware of things
I
like.
walked into a door, yeah.
Now we're aware of a good thing is we're now aware domestic violence is a problem. And so we know if someone's like, is that really going on? Like, that's like the dog ate my homework. But maybe this is 15s and they were more naive and they didn't know that. Maybe at the time, the police were, oh, okay. And then they, the statistics go up and then the government, not realizing they had a problem with domestic violence, were like, we got to do something about these stairs. Like all these women keep falling down the stairs. Maybe they had a campaign. Australia says no to women falling down. Use the hand.
Engineers in.
Yeah, get some engineers. It's so weird. Whenever we fix the stairs, they end up getting bashed by their husbands. What's going on here? Like, and so she ends up finally getting out of that world. And then she finally marries first time. She kind of gets a straight life. And so she's like, sort of, around 50 or whatever, she ends up getting a guy who was just like a merchant sailor, right? A normal guy. And then she gets her sort of final identity as her wife. And, she just like, it's listed as she just does domestic duties or whatever. And then, and it would have been hard for a woman like that to find a normal guy, to not be bored by them, it's hard to go from like, so did you stab anyone today, sweetheart? Like it would have been, such a crazy world she was from, but she was finally ready to say no. Kind of, she could have tried to take that path earlier on with that first detective, but she was like, no. And then sadly, she's only gets like 4 years of normal life before she then dies in a fire from smoking a cigarette. She passes out and the cigarette causes a house fire. She lived in Bondi in Sydney and dies at 62.
I remember that ending. What a life.
What a life, right?
What a life.
It's hard to I guess one of the things I think about when I think about that story is like, I don't know if you ever daydream about like, oh, what would happen if society collapsed? Like you'd go Mad Max and you're like, well, I'd have to like fight people all the time and or sell my body for sex, right? And so, but we sort of daydream about that, but then it's like some people are actually living in that reality the whole way through their life. And I think Dulcie was someone who was living a Mad Max life.
That's just like fight or flight, like just go all the time.
Well, that's a good point. Her whole life was in a flight or flight response.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talk about like trauma and fucking identity issues, right? So there's a personality disorder called borderline personality disorder, which is like quite a harsh thing, but it's known by like people who don't have a strong sense of identity. They think in extreme black and whites and they have massive abandonment issues. It's thought to be partly developed when children, whether real or just experienced by the child, have that developmental insecurity by feeling abandoned in a very primal, I'm talking like 4-7.
So it's not genetic. It is.
Well, there seems to be a genetic, it's like what they say is like nature loads the gun and the environment pulls the trigger.
You've got the predisposition.
Yeah. So some people can have it and they don't get it.
Yeah.
Other people can actually have a very nurturing environment and just something doesn't happen. They don't experience that internalizing of the mother.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with the mum and it can just happen to anyone. It's just one of those things. Right. And, luckily there's more and more treatments for it, but it's a real, very high suicide risk kind of condition. But it's, did Dulcie have BPD? Well, I don't know. But the two big parts of it are abandonment issues and identity disturbance. So her identity constantly changed as a sex worker, all these different aliases, and then the media giving her all these names.
And then what about attachment theory?
Exactly. And then all the partners being murdered.
Yeah.
So if she didn't have BPD, she may have been the first adult in human history to develop BPD.
Yeah.
That's got to fucking fry your head.
Definitely. Definitely. And it makes me wonder what her childhood was really like.
Probably not great. When you're running away to join the Razor Gang wars and be a sex worker and that's your better option, probably not a great environment at home.
No.
But yeah, that's my Dulcie story.
And so will you put that on your crime tour?
So that's one of the stories, yeah. So
and so how can people find your show and which cities are you doing? So you've got Sydney coming up.
The way you can find my show is I want you to look up remote viewing or find a local psychic and ask them where you can just simply, the best way to do it is I travel around Australia doing these. I also work with a friend of mine and a very funny comedian called Roy Campbell who helps me with these stories. Another comedian who occasionally helps with these stories called Angus Gordon is very, very funny. But you can follow us all on Instagram. So I'm Shayne Hunter with a Y. And then during things like comedy festivals or fringe festivals, I might be in your city. But I live in Brisbane. So at least 6 months a year, I'm doing walking tours on the weekend, and you're going to do one in August, which will be great. And then I'm also working on some other projects.
Can I just say, throughout this interview with you today, Shayne, you are a really intellectual person. So that's why I said I can't tell when you're about to pull a fast one on me and joke because you come across so freaking clever.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
And so I think only twice you had to say, that was a joke, Bel.
Right. Well, yeah, no, yeah.
I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah, no, it's, the intellectual thing is I think it's fuck school, man. Like I failed every fucking subject. Every subject I failed. It's a garbage system. It only measures what the measurement is.
Should we tell each other what our scores were at the end? 1, 2, 3, go. Don't do it. I'm not saying mine ever.
Yeah, fair enough.
God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have some quick fire questions for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, number one. I'm just going to say it and you've already answered it. Out of the two you already said, who's your comedic idol? You don't have to say one of the ones you said.
I got a few. I really liked Bill Hicks, and there's a lot I admire about Bill Hicks.
Mm.
So if people don't know who Bill Hicks is, he sadly died at 32 when he was just growing out of his sort of self-righteous phase. But he was someone who kind of used comedy to rail against what he thought was like the degeneration of our culture. So like vapid consumerism and shallow art. He thought that had a corrosive effect on our civilization. And, looking where things are and where the priorities are, I would say he was bang on right about that. He became sort of well known long after he died. But he's an interesting guy. Might not be everyone's cup of tea because, there's some videos of him. He's only like 27, so it's like kind of he's in his angry kind of like
angsty.
Fuck the man, So, he was young, so he's only as mature as his age or whatever. But I do like Doug Stanhope, who's another comedian who takes on big issues and kind of is insightful, but he's very gritty and kind of dark and he's very clever. Yeah, they're probably my two guys I like.
Yeah. And there's no point with any of the other of my quick fire questions because we know you don't watch movies. My question was going to be favorite comedy film. Have you ever watched a film?
Yeah, I have.
And was it funny?
I just feel like with comedy films, I just feel like they're not that punchy, because I feel like the way that the film industry has worked is it feels like, what's that? There's like a saying where it's like a donkey is a horse built by committee, right? So I feel that with comedy is a dangerous thing, right? So that's why Australia rarely invests in comedies. And a lot of the time they are unfortunately shit because it's a very hard thing to get right. And when you have a big production, you have so many, it's becomes bureaucratic, there's
so many different talking heads in it.
Well, and they have different objectives.
Yeah.
And so to my regret, maybe not to others, we spend, football is a safe thing as an investor to produce because it's like, oh, people like football and like it's a good return on investment.
Yeah.
Well, with comedy, maybe you like the chances you make the next Seinfeld is like so slim, but the chances are you make some dog shit where you don't get your return on investment is like really high. So,
yeah.
And so I think with a lot of comedy films, like they're trying to appease everyone at once. I think comedy can be quite transgressive and maybe ruffle feathers, which is doesn't go well with the sort of investor return model. Like if you're like, oh, I'm going to do a movie about drug addicts who deal drugs to the to Parliament House, which is a real thing that happened apparently. People are like, nah, we're not going to fund that.
Too real.
Right. It's too edgy or transgressive. And so I think with comedy films, like there's obviously good ones out there, but I just can't think of anything.
Now, my very last question that I ask all of my guests, Shayne Hunter.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a ghost or a UFO?
That's a great question.
Or a UFO?
They're such good topics.
Go.
Have I ever seen a ghost or a UFO? Well, before I was starting this, like I wanted to ask you about like remote viewing or whatever, because like I'm not a mystical person. So talking about true crime, right?
Yeah.
So just quickly, no, I don't think I've seen a ghost. I think I may have seen a UFO. I was in a graveyard, but I was also on psychedelics.
So what did it look like?
4 lights that were like there and then they flew away into the distance.
Was anyone with you?
Yes.
Did they see the same thing?
Yeah.
Did you tell them you saw that?
They brought it up first.
And did you see it before they brought it up?
Yes.
So independently,
But
you
we were both on psychedelics.
Yeah, but
it seems unlikely, but it is a caveat. But with the ghost stuff, I think I've got more interesting stuff to say, right? So with the ghost stuff, like I come and I'm very aware of the dangers of, things like the causality illusion. So for centuries, human beings thought bloodletting was great because seemingly when we drain people of blood, their symptoms go away. But what actually is happening is they don't have the energy to be manic anymore, right? And we're like, oh, cool. So where we confuse correlation with causality, and the scientific revolution was about teasing out correlation from causality to try to disprove that it's not just a correlation and that there may be a causal link, right?
Yeah.
And I respect that. And I think that my awareness of having been young and became a political extremist, I was an anarchist, being aware of how easy it is for the human mind to believe in shit, I tentative with any kind of new agey hocus woo stuff, right? But in terms of ghosts and stuff, like I met some people that through a true crime author called Roy Malloy, who unfortunately has gone through some health issues, but he's been nothing but lovely. I met him at the Adelaide Fringe recently, but look up Roy Malloy if you like Australian true crime authors. He introduced me very kindly to some people who work with Debbie, and then through Debbie and Rob are business partners for the Geelong Jail Museum, which I'm going to be doing the Geelong Comedy Festival in Victoria, where I'll be doing a comedy show with Ro Campbell about some of these true crime stories in the actual jail.
Oh, wow.
And so talking to them just about like they have all these artifacts or whatever. And, and then they were bringing up ghost stuff to me.
You might see a ghost.
I might see ghosts. They were bringing up ghost stuff to me, right? And like, Deb, I think she had a background in journalism. Like these aren't like, they're not people who bring up ghosts because they're like ghost orientated or into tarot cards or any of that kind of,
They're legit. Well, I had a psychic on this show. I haven't released the episode yet, but I will shortly. And she has a psychology degree.
Right. Yeah.
Serious people.
Yeah. Because, so there are accounts of some of the ghost stuff in the jail, because this jail was operating 150 years. Chopper Read was in one of the cells.
Was he?
So when we're performing on stage, this jail cell's right there that Chopper Read was in.
Yeah.
Which will be fucking wild.
Yeah.
But they have heaps of ghost shit. So they say like, first, so they've been running that business. I think they said it was like more than 15 years or whatever. But they had things where like, they'll just have people go in and check out all the exhibits and, artifacts and walk around, all the displayed on the wall or whatever. And they'll walk out and they're like, oh, thanks. They'll bring their kid and shit. Like it's just a family weekend thing. And then they'll say, oh, it's really cool that you pay for the actors up on the
Oh,
the
made up
floor
there.
and they're like, we don't fucking do that. So people will all see the same shit all the time.
Wow.
Their personal experiences of the ghost stuff is quite frequent. They said they brought in psychics or whatever and had psychics run out screaming, and then another psychic like walked in with beers and they're like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm just having a beer with the ghost thing. Like, you know, it's just madness, right?
So I have never seen a ghost or a UFO, Shayne, but all three of my children have had an experience with a ghost. They've all said the exact same
I'm
thing.
actually a ghost.
Yeah. Hey?
I'm actually a ghost.
So you're not actually here right now.
Actually,
I am talking to myself.
That the aliens brought. No, sorry. Yeah. So your kids have seen ghosts?
Yeah, my kids. Yeah, they have. More audience, they heard them.
They've heard them.
Yeah.
What did they hear?
Their names whispered on the wind. And they asked me independently, separately, don't you hear your name on the wind? And I'm like, no, what do you mean? What, you don't hear your name being whispered really loud in your ear? I'm like,
what, when?
No.
Like, well, they all said that shit.
Yeah, in our house.
At the same time?
No, within about 6 months of each other.
Right. And did they know that the other kid had said that? You weren't
No, because I wasn't really listening to the first one who said it.
Right.
Because she was like 12. So I was like, yeah, whatever.
And you're like,
whatever.
Yeah.
And then my youngest one, who was about 5, yelled at me and said, stop saying, Pasha. And I said, I'm not calling you. So that was the second one.
Right.
And then the third one was 17 at the time. And then she told me, and I'm like, right.
And you knew you didn't bring it up between the three of them?
Never. Because I ignored the first one. The second one was mean to me about it, thinking it was me doing it.
Right.
And then the third one came to me independently as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've never had that experience. And then with my guests, I asked them all this same thing. So look at the sky.
Why are you interested in UFOs, do you
Because
think?
it's got to be. It's got to be.
It's got to be.
Got to be. How can we be the only people?
Well, there's a difference between thinking we're alone in the universe as the only like sentient life form or thing versus believing that we're actively being visited. Like they're two different things, right? So like the evidence would suggest the enormity of the universe and the precedent that life occurred on this is like, you know, what's annoying? It's so frustrating. It's like, if it's not some sort of like, so as far as we, you know, it could be some weird kind of weather thing we don't understand. There could be so much shit we don't understand that it's just like some sort of like physical phenomenon. Like, you know, ball lightning is very rare, but occasionally a lightning ball will just come through your wall.
And hover. What? Come.
Yeah. So so that's a thing that
I'm going to look that up.
They thought ball lightning wasn't real, but they've since physics has been like, oh yeah, we don't fully understand, but it's a documented.
I'm going to look that up. And then you've got min lights.
Right. I think there is a conventional physics explanation for that phenomenon, though.
Really? Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
I think it's like a kind of light you see when you're driving from Adelaide to Perth, the min light.
Yeah.
And I think but
it's a phenomenon. I'm going to.
But please tell me.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it's rural Australia. It's definitely Adelaide to Perth, but I'm pretty sure it's top end as well.
Right. I think it's
something to do with the lights of your car?
No, I don't know. I think there's something to do with lights and refraction and shit. I don't fully understand.
Because the ones that I have heard people have seen have come up beside their car or been behind their car and then shot off in front of them.
Right. Seems pretty hard to explain.
It's like they play with you.
That's what's annoying about it is like if there's alien, like let's say it is aliens and not some other thing like a weird cloud we don't understand yet. It's kind of like, why are we being fucked with? Just fucking tell me.
Yeah.
We're living on this. First of all, I don't want to be looking at spreadsheets or thinking about superannuation. Can you come down here? Fucking free us from this fucking nightmare where it's like this endless Game of Thrones with nukes and we're all going to kill ourselves soon.
Oh my God.
We're going to nuke ourselves soon. Fucking just give us the answers. We can
Maybe that's what I'm looking for.
Next time I see an animal documentary where the gazelle's getting eaten by a lion, if I was the film guy, I'll get up and fucking kick the lion in the head because that would be my alien intervention of compassion or whatever. But yeah, so maybe that's how they see us. They're like, these primitive ants, what are they're going to do? The ants are going to nuke themselves. Isn't that funny? You know, like they're not, maybe they're just indifferent. Oh, why are they going to nuke themselves?
Maybe they're betting on it.
Maybe they fucking making it happen, man. Maybe they are the nukes, dude. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem that there's more like it does seem like there was a thing like a few years ago where like the US military were like, oh yeah, these things are real, rather than sort of dismissing it. They're like, there's
Right.
something happening, we don't know what it is. So like basically like the US government's going, oh yeah, these are real. And then it's like, how do we still proceed in like modernity where we're like, oh, you know what
Yes,
I mean?
I get
Just
it.
like, that
Yeah.
2005
Move
Australia,
along, yeah.
2005 Australia, where like
Yes.
the US was still like the world empire and we weren't in this like shift and like it feels like every institution has people don't have, maybe I'm projecting, but I feel like the belief in our institutions as being capable and trustworthy has dropped dramatically
Yeah.
across all of the Western world. And there's such cynicism and hopelessness for it. And there's been such a big letdown. And, you know, this is probably just a cyclical nature of civilizations, but, and then you just throw aliens into that. It's like, fucking talk about that. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think the liberals will keep losing, because like, I think that the conservative idea of like, well, what's worked, let's preserve it. Let's do what's worked. It's not about, it's not crazy to think that, but it's also like that worldview of 2005 of Australia, like that fucking doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit anymore. Now there's aliens involved. It's like Peter Dutton and fucking Tony Abbott as being like the more right wing of the conservative thing. All right. That they can't bring in aliens. Well, I feel like Albo would probably be like, well, yeah, maybe.
He might.
I've seen some weird, there's weird
I reckon
reports.
Clive would. Big Clive.
I reckon he was our saviour. I reckon he would have saved us all.
I'm going to get him on the podcast.
I think
I
you
went
should.
to Christmas with him.
I actually have a, you know, I have a, in my house, you know, like the Jesus cross where they have like Jesus on there.
Yeah.
I have Clive on the cross because he's my personal Lord and Saviour.
Again, listeners, I can't tell if
No,
he's...
that's a joke. So wait, you had Christmas with Clive?
Yeah, I've got a letter.
Christmas, Christ.
Yes.
An accident? He's the second coming. Aliens were trying to tell us, vote for Clive. That's why they were landing.
I've got a letter on the table behind me that, because he doesn't take emails. He doesn't believe in emails. It's letter only, handwritten.
That's something that I feel the second coming of Christ would do.
Right. Because I actually rang his mineralogy company and said, what's the best email? Family friend, years ago, Christmas.
What's he like as a dude?
She said, he doesn't take email. I said, surely. She said, no, he does not believe in email.
That's hilarious. But what's he like as a dude if you know him?
I don't know him because I would have been about 8 years old.
Oh.
And this is the weird thing about childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I have no memory of this Christmas because my father had just passed away the Christmas previous.
Yeah.
So my brother remembers that Christmas and he's like, he could tell you all the things Clive did or we had at the party. I was like, are you guys sure I was there? Bronies? This sounds amazing. Karaoke?
Yeah, that is a childhood trauma thing.
Large chess pieces on a chessboard? How can I block that out? Yet remember heaps of trauma from below 8.
It's funny that you get to remember the bad shit.
Yeah.
Well, I got a joke in my stand-up about that annoying thing that you don't remember what you want to, like, so in the joke I say on stage, you go, I heard that apparently you never forget your traumatic memories, which is annoying because you always remember, like you never remember the shit you want to remember. Does anyone here ever forget their Gmail password? And usually people might have moaned, yeah. And they go, so I found a hack, right? Because you don't forget your traumatic memories. What you do is you make your traumatic memories your Gmail password and you never forget them. And just be like, oh, she cheated on me with my best friend 69. Like, you'll never forget that password.
Shayne, you're a genius because you know how I set passwords?
What?
When I look at something that's near me and I put that word in there. Like I had Serenity 11 because I had a candle that was beside me called Serenity. And I like 11.
Well, if anyone's interested, well, I guess your next password's going to be, Father Fire 69 or whatever.
Husband loves.
Husband OnlyFans.
Husband OnlyFans.
Husband loves Shayne's OnlyFans.
Thank you, Shayne. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Thanks for listening to Once Upon a Real Life with Bel. Don't forget to visit alphasport.com.au with your special discount code BEL10 for 10% off Active Flex pain relieving gel. My name's Bel. See you on the next episode.